Hey folks, welcome back to the kitchen. We've been out in the garden picking. Let's show you what we got. So it is full-on basil season. We've picked a whole big heaping bushel basket of basil out of the garden. And then we tore off all of our leaves. These are just substandard leaves and stems left here in our bushel basket. And we put them here in a sink, floating them around in here. And that lets all the dirt and whatever else is on them float down, sink to the bottom. The dirt will sink to the bottom. And we just agitate this, get these leaves really clean. And then we're going to put them in our salad spinner. Now we do several things with basil here on the homestead, and we'll show you one of them today. Well, actually we'll show you both, but we're going to do one of them today. Now a lot of times we'll take our basil, we'll pull the leaves off, and we'll dry it and make dried basil out of it. And we use that quite a bit in different dishes. I even use a little bit of that on the garlic bread when I make it. But tonight we're going to be making pesto with it. We're going to make all the basil we have into pesto, so however much that makes. And we'll actually have some for dinner tonight with some pasta. The rest of it we're going to put in the freezer for a rainy day. So after we have a good rinse here in the sink, we're going to take our pesto, or not our pesto, but our basil, and we're going to put it in our salad spinner right here, which acts as like a centrifuge, gets all the excess moisture off of the basil, because we don't want a lot of water on it when we're using it in our recipe. So we'll get this thing probably about a third full, and then we'll give it a spin. So to give this thing a spin, we just push down on this little plunger here. You can see the bowl spinning on the inside, getting all that water off. So there's our basil after a spin. Just throws all the water out of the basket onto the side of the bowl, and it collects in the bottom. I'll show you. There's all the water in the bottom of the bowl. So now I'm going to take it out of this bowl, put it in this bowl, and then we'll do some more from the sink. We've got plenty to get us started with our recipes. We're just going to leave the rest of this kind of floating in the sink, keep it nice and fresh until we spin it. So let's get started. So you're going to need a food processor or a real good blender. And this recipe calls for a half a cup of freshly grated Parmesan cheese. Buy the good stuff, and then you can just cube that up, put it in your bowl, and you can grate it right in your container, and then measure out a half a cup, and then just reserve the rest. So we've got that grated already. We'll measure out, throw it back in, and then we'll add the next ingredient. All right, we're ready to put this thing together. We've got 2 cups of our basil. You want to compress it down in the cup. You don't just smash it crazy, but just pack it into the cup to where it reaches 2-cup measurement. And then we're going to put that in our blender. We're going to add 2 tablespoons of the pine nuts over here. We're going to add 2 large cloves worth of garlic. We just have our minced garlic that we use. And we're going to put all that in there and then let that go until it's really fine. So let's get it in the bowl here. All right, basil, pine nuts, and garlic going for a spin. All right, that's pretty finely minced. We're going to shake that up real good and do that a couple times. Got it pretty finely minced here. So with the machine running, we're going to drizzle in a half a cup of really good olive oil. And then that's going to get nice and smooth in there. And then we'll stop and we'll add our half a cup of cheese and then blend it real quick. So what our mixture looks so far, we're going to scrape down the bowl to get everything down into that liquid. And then it'll continue to process Now that the oil's in there, it won't stick to the side as much. Now that we've got it good and blended, we're going to add about a 1/4 teaspoon of salt and all of our 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese. And we're going to blend that until smooth, and then this will be done. Look at that beautiful pesto. I wish you could smell it right now. It smells so amazing. So we're going to stir up a pound of pasta. It's not going to take all of this pesto, but we're going to have some pesto pasta for dinner. Now, pesto is one of those things that many people do many different ways. Some people will toast the pine nuts before they put them in there. Some people will blanch the basil before they do it. They'll blanch it and then throw it in cold water. That'll keep it a more brighter green, but I don't mind the darker green myself, so I don't go to that step. Some people will put a little bit of lemon juice in the mixture, about a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons, somewhere like that. And that brings up the little tanginess in it a little bit, but I don't care for the lemon, so I don't do that. So I can't wait to dig in. Got our last batch of basil in our salad spinner. And this, folks, is why you float it in the sink. All that dirt was on those basil leaves. The water's nice and clear, though. It all sinks to the bottom, and that's why it's a good idea to float it. Got our pasta cooked and drained. We added about 3/4 cup of pesto into our pot and stirred it in. Different people have different taste buds, so start with maybe 1/4 to 1/2 cup in your pound of pasta, and just keep adding till it what you like. I like about 3/4 cup. The recipe we just showed you makes about 1.5 cups, so it would handle about 2 pounds of pasta. Or you can save the other 3/4 cup for your next go round. Now I add also a couple tablespoons of butter into the mix that we will melt into the mix. Gives a little bit creamier texture. And then now's the time you want to taste it for salt as well, just like any recipe. If it needs a little salt, now the time to add it. Now also we saved about 1/2 cup of our pasta water. If your pasta starts getting too dry, just mix in just a little bit of that pasta water and you'll be good to go. And there, folks, is our pesto pasta. I like to serve it with a little bit of extra Parmesan cheese on top. If you like a little crushed red pepper on this, it would be appropriate if you like a little bite to it. So we're going to eat this, and then we'll show you how we're going to store the rest of our pasta that we make. Wow, dinner was fantastic. Love summertime. Love that basil, fresh basil out of the garden. Also goes well with tomatoes. The two things that do go well with tomatoes is basil and cilantro. But cilantro never sticks around until the tomatoes are done, but your basil will. So basil's a little bit better partner, a little more considerate than the cilantro is. So there's the rest of our beautiful pesto there. So what we're going to do is we have these 1 pint freezer bags, and I got a 3/4 cup measuring cup. So I'll measure exactly 3/4 cup is what we use for a pound of pasta into that bag, and then I'll flatten those bags out like I do when I make my sausage. And we'll put those in the freezer and freeze, and then you can stack them once they're frozen in the freezer real nicely. They don't take up a lot of room. Got her all bagged up. We got enough pesto for 5 good meals, pasta meals, or whatever else we want to use it for. Now, some people say if you're going to freeze it, leave the cheese out and add 1/2 cup of Parmesan cheese when you mix it with your pasta. I've never had a problem with it, but you be the judge. You may like it better that way. So, hope you enjoyed our little pasta and pesto making video. So, till next time, stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. Make sure you try this recipe. You're absolutely going to love it. If you've never tried pesto before, you'll be in love. So, see you next time, folks.